thank you for allowing us to come back and present again.
Absolutely. Question, I looked up the statute that you referred to, 8003, Section 31. It talks about middle school and secondary school. So I don't see much about middle school. Why is there nothing about middle school?
There's nothing about middle schools because there's limited funding. That's pretty much the reason why.
Okay. When did you?
But I do think that middle school, we should be recruiting in middle school.
But
somebody's going to, Esther's going to respond to that.
When that legislation was put in place, that definitely was part of our vision. One of the things that we found was it was very difficult to now put a program in the middle school. It was a foreign idea to them. We were trying to figure out whether to do it through the guidance program or through an exploratory, and schools were not willing to do much more than do a career day with us. So we abandoned that at that time. There weren't the systems in place that we readily could integrate with a program at the middle school level. We are highly interested in that, but realize it would take a lot more discussion with middle school leaders around how it would fit into the curriculum. We actually had a curriculum. We went down south and purchased a curriculum for middle schools. We were ready to go, but they were not ready to change their schedules. Do you want to say that?
And I think that some feedback from the districts were start with the secondary. Those children are ready to go to college, and that's where we could get them into the teacher force just a little bit faster. I think that middle school is ripe, and I think that we need to do that. We would have this seamless pathway, middle, high school, and college. Carry them right through. Absolutely.
So, and you know, you're going to educate me here. So, I thought that the law that we're referring to was about you all not just implementing a program, but studying this issue, studying what we would need to do in order to do these things. And as I've listened to people over the course of a long time, but particularly over the course of this task force, one of the things that has been suggested to me was the importance of how early we start. And so, as I listen to you, it sounds like what you're saying to me is we've had an inability to implement a program, but it also sounds to me like you're not quite sure how that would happen and what it would look like. Is that correct?
I would say that we did our studying in those years around 2008, 2009, looking at our past practice, which was to travel down south to the historically black colleges. Students did not necessarily want to come up to Connecticut. It was too expensive. They didn't feel welcome. We actually stopped and said, what do we want to do? That's when we implemented Praxis Prep. It's when we implemented the beginnings of the scholarship program. And we're at a point now where, again, the priority hasn't changed. The priority is still there. But examining our practice has led us to raise more questions. So we are raising questions on, say, Praxis 1, because the students, we don't know what the possibilities of the pass rates are.
I think we're missing each other because I'm referring to the issue of the middle school, right? So the traveling down south and all of those things with Praxis, that's a little bit later. But what I'm asking is the study that you did where it relates to middle school students, the students who are, at least in terms of the law, the earliest we're going to deal with. The study that you did with them yielded what? Because it sounds to me like you may have seen a model curriculum and you wanted to implement that, and that stuff is lovely, but I don't know what you learned from your study, because that's what the law says you were doing.
We did study, we did obtain a curriculum, and we attempted to implement.
Okay, I'll move on. You suggested that in order to be in your program, you need pretty good students, but you never define what pretty good is. What is that? In order to be in the program, you would have to be a pretty good student. That was suggested during the conversation, and I'm trying to figure out what a pretty good student is, because I don't know from your presentation.
Pathways program?
Yeah.
Pathways. It is on the slide that they're
I missed
expected.
it.
They're expected to have a B average.
Okay.
And a B plus by their senior year, hopefully, so that would enable them to get scholarships, financial aid into college. They're also expected to be students who are leaders in their school, who are involved in their community, role models for the rest of the kids. And Senator Winfield, it is on slide. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. We do really, our mentors are very focused about whom they recruit. They know who their students are, and they personally invite them to join our program. They personally say to them, I think this would be a career for you that's really important, that you can do well. So join us and find out about it and become part of us. And we do look at that academic background, and we also want to look at attendance. They need to be in school to be able to do well too. So they're students who care about school. And then again, self-discipline, maturity, those are all 21st century skills that we know that are important in high school. And so we focus on those, but we're looking for kids who have that potential too.
And I don't know.
I'm sorry, Senator Winfield, one more thing is all of our students have to provide 2 faculty recommendations, not from their mentor, from other faculty members that say that yes, they believe, and we actually have a rubric that we give the faculty members, and we ask them to rate them on leadership, academics, community involvement, and that's part of their package. And they have to write an essay too about why they want to be a teacher or why they want to join Pathways.
So if I'm a B student who's not a community leader, who does not have 2 faculty recommendations, I can't be part of the program?
I think that the faculty recommendations are important. Yes, you do have to have those. If you're not a community leader, we'll help you become one, because we do community service projects. And so our students are a part of that organization. They're a part of that leadership that get involved in those community projects. This year, for instance, we're going to be gathering books for children to be put in pediatricians' offices so that when new parents go with their children, the first thing they do is get a book and a prescription to read to their child. So those are the kinds of things that we would do to develop our students as leaders. Right now, we have 10 students who are doing all the regional events. They are the leaders. They came forward and said they would like to try to do that, so we are developing them as leaders to do all the presentations at the regional events. They are asked to do workshops at our Future Teacher Conference. So you may not yet be a leader, but we'll help you be one. We'll give you the opportunities and we'll give you the support.
I think community leadership is important. I think it's very important, but I would guess that many of the teachers who are teaching our students, and I'm not just talking about teachers of color, were never community leaders. Why is that important to necessarily be a part of this program?
I think I understand. Okay. If you're talking about community, are you talking, Senator Winfield, help me. So if it's community leaders, are you defining that as someone who is like a council member or something, community? No, we're talking about community service, and we do believe that teachers have a moral obligation to be part of service.
If I'm of my majority population, and I'm not ever going to be a part of this because I'm majority population, and I go straight through school, and I never did community leadership in the way you define it, I still become a teacher. We're trying to open up the pathways for people who have all kinds of difficulties becoming teachers. What I'm trying to figure out is, as much as I value community leadership, why that's necessarily important to this program when we're trying to open up the possibility to people who have other difficulties.
Okay, I think that I answered the question when you said, is that a requirement? The requirement is 2 faculty recommendations and an essay. Those are requirements. Are they helped to write those essays? Yes. There's not a requirement to be already involved in community service. There is a requirement that throughout the years of high school, we would ask you to get involved in something like that, because we believe, again, the teachers do have that moral obligation.
When did you begin receiving money for the programs you're doing? Microphone, so they're recording microphone.
2008.
So, I guess my question is,
with the legislation, the most recent form of legislation.
2008. So then, I'm sorry, go ahead. 2008 is correct, right? So,
Can I just make one comment? Just to clarify what type of funding. We have received minimal funding for a number of years prior to that legislation. I just wanted to make that clear.
right, I understand.
Okay.
My question is pursuant to the piece of legislation 8003, section 31, which was the budget. 8003, section 31, you started getting money in 2008 to do what is required under that law. Which brings us to today. So what I'm trying to figure out is when I'm looking at your presentation, I see data from 2012 on. And so I'm trying to figure out why the data starts in 2012 and not before that. You're
I apologize. I think prior to that, we were doing that study and reflection on what was working, what wasn't working. We held the symposium. There were a number of things that we were studying and looking at and trying to put in place that I don't think we did a great job of data collection prior to the 2012 when we recognized that we really needed that in order to do a proper analysis of our work. Respect your question. Thank you.
Thank you. In terms of the preparation for the praxis, I guess I have multiple questions, but in terms of the preparation, how did you determine that the preparation or the assistance that you're giving to the people in your program would be useful to them? Because when I look at the results, I'm not so sure that it's very useful.
We would agree with you. Our initial thoughts when we were making this transition from prior practice to current practice was, well, what do we hear from potential candidates? Why aren't they applying to schools? And one of the problems that we kept hearing was we need help passing Praxis 1. Connecticut has a very strict regulation around that, and we don't know necessarily where to go for that support. Once you enter a university program, there's support for Praxis 2 by the university, but there were very expensive options for Praxis 1 prep. We sat down and tried to analyze what might that look like. We interviewed a variety of tutors. We read the Praxis prep books. We looked at the tests. We talked to ETS, and we got started. We continued to change the program because of a number of things that we found as results. For example, we found that people were taking the Praxis prep program. We were offering it at no charge, and then they weren't taking the test. Okay, so if we offered it for free numerous times and they still weren't taking the test, that wasn't a return on investment that we were happy with. So then we said, okay, we'll pay for you to participate once in our prep program, and you had to take the test within 3 months. We couldn't hold them to taking it within 3 months because we weren't paying for the test, but we found that even when they did that, then they weren't retaking the Praxis prep program now because they were going to have to pay for it. Some of them did, but we realized we weren't finding out about whether they were passing or not. We approached ETS and said, what would it take for us to get a copy of their scores? They said you have to have the people's permission. So we now have a permission slip that they have to sign off saying, yes, we give you permission to obtain those scores. So I would say over the last 3 years, we've gone around and around trying to make it work because we believe that if people have proper preparation, they take the test pretty soon after the preparation, that they in fact will pass. But there have been a number of obstacles. So we would agree with you. We've raised serious questions about whether that's the best place to go. So we are here at this presentation saying to you, we have a meeting on Thursday. We're continuing to look at what we need to do for that.
And I appreciate the difficulties you've had, but it's 9 years since the law passed. It's several years since you've been around. You were supposed to be doing studies, and I would assume that I would assume the study to be more than a survey. And it sounds very survey-like to me. That's why I'm asking the questions. And you had on one of your slides Praxis 2, but we never got to that part of the slide. And it was about what you're looking at in the future. So I'm wondering, what are you looking at in the future where Praxis 2 is concerned? We just didn't touch that.